Hi, in this video we're gonna compare a bunch of fans and see how they perform on Cooler Master Hyper 212 Plus heatsink. So if you're looking for a replacement for a stock fan or you're just doing research, stay tuned. We're gonna be comparing these fans. So starting from top left, we have Corsair SP120 High Performance Edition. The next one is the stock fan that came with the heatsink. Then followed by the gentle Tyhpoon AP15, Noctua NF-F12, Corsair SP120 Quiet Edition, and Noctua NF-P12. The tests are going to be done on varying voltage, so we're going to start at 12 and move down, decreasing the voltage by 1 each time we do a test, so we can see the whole spectrum of performance. All the tests are going to be performed on this improvised test bench. We have a i5 750 overclocked to 3.8 GHz at 1.3 volts. Fan control is going to be handled by the T-balancer, and we have a multimeter. It's all hooked together with a modified Molex to 3-pin adapter cable. As well, we have the cable attached to the motherboard so we can monitor the RPM. We're gonna take sound measurements. So we went for a fully passive video card, and we have a power supply that has been modded, so its fan doesn't spin at all at this point.
For sound measurement, we're gonna be using an Android app called Decibel. We realize it's very inaccurate, but it was the best we could get.
So for temperature monitoring, we're going to be using CPU ID hardware
monitor our temperatures. For that, we're going to use CPU ID hardware monitor, and we're going to run Prime 95 for 10 minutes on small FFT. After that, we use the max values to calculate our average. Now, once you're familiar with the testing methodology, let's take a look at the results. I made some charts so we can better take a look at what's going on. So let's start with the first chart where we have RPM and voltage. As you see, most of the fans behave the same way, and the increase in speed is more or less similar for each fan as the voltage increases. Only the stock fan stands out. At 6 volts it's just below 500, but as we increase the voltage it ends up being the second quickest fan we have. And that's a good thing because it can operate in a really wide range of RPMs, but the problem is when you have varying workloads and the motherboard's controlling the fan speed, it's gonna spool up and down really quickly, and that can be more annoying than more linear and static fan speed. Enough about voltages, because honestly in most cases we don't really care what kind of voltage is driving the fan. But what we do care about is CPU temperature. So let's take a look at the delta temperature and the RPM chart. As you see, and you probably already know this, the more quicker the fan spins, the more air is going to pass through heatsink, and the better are going to be your temperatures. That's nothing new. What was interesting to me was to see the difference in temperatures as we increase the fan speed at low RPMs and high. At low speed, 300 RPM increase brings the CPU temperature down by 5 degrees, but the same increase at high RPMs, let's say 1800, only reduces the temperature by 1 degree. This can be explained that at high airflow, heatsink is mostly in contact with room temperature air, and it won't matter how much more air you deliver, because the cooling rate will not change. So I recommend finding RPM sweet spot somewhere in the middle, and if you need more cooling performance, just get a bigger and better heatsink with larger surface area instead of ramping up those fan speeds. Coming back to the fans I tested, at equal RPM they all produced almost the same CPU temperature. Only the Noctua NF-F12 seems to be performing better at equal RPM. Thumbs up for that. So we have briefly looked at fan speeds and their cooling ability. Now I'm going to present the noise testing results. However, due to the poor instruments used for the sound measurement, treat these results with a grain of salt. The decibel values are relative and cannot be used for comparison with manufacturer specification or tests done by others. With that out of the way, let's look at the chart. Only one fan is much louder across the board, and sadly, it's a stock fan that comes with a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Plus heatsink. So if you have considered replacing it, I strongly recommend doing so. Keeping in mind that it might not be the case for the Evo version of the heatsink, because it comes with a different fan and I haven't tested it ever, so I won't make any comments regarding it. There are two fans that are worth talking about, and for everyone's surprise, it's Noctua. Noctua NF-F12 is super quiet at low speeds, and in my opinion has the best noise characteristics out of the fans we tested. I couldn't detect any motor or bearing noise, which is a huge plus in my book. Sadly, at full speed, this fan isn't the quietest one. The increase in noise could be partially explained by the performance lead we saw in the previous graph. I wouldn't want to run this fan without the included fan speed adapter or any other form of fan speed control. To be honest, I haven't seen a fan which I would like to run at 1500 RPM and I would be comfortable with the noise it creates. All of them are a little bit too loud at that performance range. The Corsair fans and the gentle Tyhpoon produced the best results in this comparison, and what was interesting, the quiet edition for the Corsair did produce a little bit less motor noise than the high performance edition one. It wasn't a big deal, but I think it's worth noticing. You're probably sick at looking at graphs already, so I promise this is the final one. Now this probably holds the most important comparison, as it has delta temperature and the noise the fans produce. Stock fan is definitely the worst out of the contenders, with Noctua NF-P12 following closely. I was actually quite disappointed when I first tested the P12. After reading so much praises for Noctua, I was underwhelmed by its performance. Thankfully, the F12 lived up to its name. The other fans are quite indistinguishable between each other and are within the margin of error. I want to note that Corsair SP120 Quiet Edition did stand out a little bit in the low noise sector. It even performed noticeably better than the high performance edition. I didn't really tell any difference in audible difference between them, but the results did come up the same after I retested it, so I just left them in. To conclude this video, I would like to take away the following things. First, if you have been thinking about the fan replacement for the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Plus heatsink, I recommend doing so. A good aftermarket fan will gonna bring the temps down and keep the noise at bay. So that's a reasonable upgrade. If you haven't noticed the fan or it doesn't bother you, sure, you can do as you like. When choosing a fan to replace it, I would say there are two major categories. One would be the high performance fans. I would consider those 120mm fans that spin around 2000 RPM. They're just a little bit too loud for me, and for average user I wouldn't recommend them. It's more difficult to get them quiet, and even if you do, usually the fans that are designed for lower RPM speeds are a little bit quieter. So unless you know you really need the top performance and you don't mind noise at all, go for it. But otherwise, I would say go for the quiet edition fans. Something around 1400, 1300 probably is the sweet spot. Based on that, I want to recommend two fans. First, is Noctua NF12, and second one is Corsair SP120 Quiet Edition. If you need a case which has a window, or you care about the color scheme, definitely get the Corsair SP120 Quiet Edition. With those changeable rings, they really look great. And the performance also is there. But if my system wouldn't have a window, I would probably go with the Noctua. First, I like the noise characteristic a little bit better, and it comes with a really great package. It has extension cables, Y splitters, rubber screw replacements which you use for mounting the fan, the whole deal. There is one more fan that gets an honorable mention, and it's the Gentle Tyhpoon. It is a little bit quicker fan than the ones I chose, but it gets the job done and it's up there with the rest of them. Plus, in the community, it's considered as probably the best radiator fan you could get, so it gets my approval as well. And this concludes the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye bye.